Welcome back to the Mintner Method. I'm your host, Andrew Mintner, and on today's episode, we're going to break down the Notre Dame and Louisville game. Now, as most of you know, I am a gigantic Notre Dame fan to my own detriment and to my own deterioration of my mental health because they have let me down time and time and time again. Just a couple weeks ago, to give a point. So I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible in this analysis. So one thing that stands out right off the bat, is Louisville falls into this category that we have been tracking since week 2, which is top 15 teams in early down success rate, early down EPA, whether that's offense or defense. Now, Louisville is a polarizing figure. Now, the reason we're tracking this is because last week, those type of teams that fit that profile, 16-7 against the spread, 10-5 the week before that. Incredible numbers. I don't know if that type of rate is going to be able to keep up as we go into conference play, but we're going to find out one way or another. So a couple things that stand out. Louisville is extremely efficient in passing the ball on early downs and very good at rushing the ball in early downs. Now, Notre Dame, if you've watched any of their games or if you're a fan, you just know that Benjamin Morrison is easily the best cornerback in all of college football. He will probably be a top 15 draft pick in the NFL, and that is why their pass defense is just so ridiculously good. And there's just really no other way to explain it. They're just insanely good. Now, their rushing defense, on the other hand, is average and a little bit below, so there is a possibility to take advantage of that. Now, when we come to the opposite side of the ball, Louisville is not good against the pass. But the thing that is concerning with that is Riley Leonard is not a good passer of the football. He's a phenomenal athlete, but not a great passer. I just don't really know how to say that any nicer. So we have strength on strength here with early rush EPA ranking 8th and then early rush defense EPA ranking 19th. So you have a little bit of a clash there from that side of the ball, as you will from this side of the ball. You're going to see a lot of strength on strength matchups within this matchup. So let's dive into the advanced statistics. So Louisville on the offensive side of the ball, 8th in points per attempt, predicted points per attempt. Overall, but they're not super explosive. So that's pretty common with Brian Brom offenses dating back to Purdue. It's not his MO. They like to stay ahead of the sticks. They like to kind of matriculate the ball down the field in a methodical way, and that's just kind of what he's done offensively everywhere he's gone. Not that it really matters. Notre Dame is just incredibly good at limiting explosive plays. Now, these are a couple of statistics here that are concerning, just to be perfectly honest. 89th in stuff rate, 95th in defensive line yards. And then what's even more concerning is when we get over here and 112th in front 7 havoc rate. So that's 8.1% of the time. That is very concerning. Unlike Notre Dame teams they've had great pass rushers in the past. But in this matchup, the offensive line for Louisville matches up just way better in general. I don't think that's not being that's not a hyperbole. That's a fact. Now, one thing is when we look at it from a rushing standpoint, Notre Dame is just not great against the run. They're great at limiting explosive runs, which really doesn't matter because that's not what Louisville does. They don't run the ball explosively. What they do is they're very good efficiently at running the ball and limiting negative plays, which is pretty much all Brian Brom's offense is concerned with doing. Now, they are good at passing the ball, and they do have explosive plays, but I don't really think they're going to have the opportunity against this defense to do anything of that nature. They're going to take whatever they give them and be happy, probably, because they try to push the envelope, they're going to be sad because it's going to be bad. Now, what this tells me is two things. All right, Notre Dame can either line up in man for like 60% of this matchup and load the box and force them to beat Benjamin Morrison and these other extremely good defensive backs. Or they can just, play how they normally play, mix up the coverages, have Morrison shadow whichever receiver they want to shadow, and then just go from there. If it was me, I would force them to beat me through the air. Like, that would just be it. We would be playing straight man for probably 70% of the matchups and just force them to beat us that way. We'd be stacking the box, and that would be it. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. They do play man at an elevated rate, but it would have to be at an even higher elevated rate probably in this matchup. Now, when we go down to the offensive and defensive side on the opposite matchup, you have Notre Dame. Their entire identity has been established now. They want to run the ball. They want to use quarterback-designed runs to open up the offense, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's what their strength is. Riley Leonard is not Sam Hartman. He's not going to sit there and look pretty in the pocket and throw the ball on a rope. That's just not him. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like in life, if people play more of their strengths, they'd probably be more successful. So here's the thing. Again, this is a strength-on-strength matchup. Now, I know you're looking at this, you're like, oh, they're 9th in explosiveness. Louisville's 114th in allowing explosiveness. That should be a great matchup. It's not. It's strength-on-strength. No other way to cut it. All right, so they're 11th in stuff rate, 11th or 16th in defensive line yards, 19th in front seven havoc. Now, there is no havoc in the secondary. The secondary is not producing big plays, and they're not really, expected to in this defensive style. 5th in rushing predicted points per attempt, efficiency. But this is the big one, right? 119th in rush explosiveness allowed. Okay? Versus 2nd in offensive rush explosiveness. So this is really where we're standing, okay? They're not going to pass the ball probably well. They're not going to probably, I would say, pass it for explosive plays. They're going to have to bust long runs, explosive chunk plays, which they'll be capable of, but that's going to have to be the difference in the game, right? So when we go, I think it's important we look at the schedules just to kind of get an idea of who they've played and what we're working with here. Louisville hasn't really played anybody. They played Georgia Tech last week, who is a physical team, mind you, and they played them pretty well. I mean, they beat them by 12. Obviously, everybody knows what Notre Dame did to Purdue. They just stomped them. And then they played Miami, Ohio. They looked pretty lackluster in the first half. And then they just kind of were like, okay, we can't lose again to another MAC team, or, they'll burn down the stadium. So they turned it on. They made it happen, what have you. What's concerning here for me, if you're backing Notre Dame, is simply just the matchup overall, right? Because obviously I clicked on the wrong thing. We'll get it back up so you can see the line. But the matchup overall gives me pause. The line is moving further away from where it started. It's at 6.5 now. I personally cannot lay 6.5. Even as a Notre Dame fan, even as a believer, even as someone who holds Notre Dame futures, I cannot lay 6.5. I won't. They're going to have to prove it to me that they can win these type of games against these type of teams. I'm looking at the schedule, and they got Georgia Tech in a couple of weeks. Another physical team. USC's sitting here at the bottom of the year. We don't know what that's going to look like. So this is the thing. I think Louisville has enough advantages in this game to cover 6.5. I don't know if they will win. I don't think they will win, but I do think this is going to be a close game. I don't foresee any blowouts on either side of the ball. I easily could see this game landing in between 2 to 5 points. Just Louisville, even though their strength is also Notre Dame's strength on the defensive side, they're going to have opportunities to run the ball and get open space. And I just can't act like I'm over the Louisville game last year where they completely dominated. And the Notre Dame team that's returning this year, that defense is fairly similar to what it was last year. It's better in my opinion, but the style is similar. They're leaning heavily on the secondary and Benjamin Morrison. But it's going to be Louisville plus the points for me. I don't have it any other way. I think Notre Dame has the potential to run the table, and if they do, they will make the playoff even with that horrendous loss to Northern Illinois. But this is a close game. This is a tough game, and I'm not going to sit here and act like a homer that most people are and be like, oh yeah, they're going to crush them. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tight game, and in that case, I'm going to take the points. All right. So that's going to be it for this video / episode. If obviously like, subscribe, comment if you like the content. If you want to see another game preview that you might not think I'm going to cover, it is Tuesday. It's early enough in the week for me to really put it on my schedule. I'm looking at doing numerous more. My theme going forward is we are targeting these games with teams who are just crushing this early down success rate stuff. And I think that's a big deal. Straight betting these teams have been extremely profitable. So, but again, if you need to reach me, you can reach me on Twitter. You can comment on the video. You can email me at the mintnermethod@gmail.com. It's the same as the channel name. And then other than that, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.